I'd like to talk about an insight that I had regarding accountability and working with family issues. So, recently I've been having a bit of an uncomfortable scenario with someone in my family, and there's a lot of I was receiving a lot of blame, and you know, to be fair, I have I can admit that I acted in a way that was not in my highest maturity. Um, but then when I really reflected on that, you know, for me to reflect on it, I don't need anyone to tell me how I'm not living up to their standard. And when people feel obligated to give their opinions of that nature to you, it's unhealthy for both of you. It's unhealthy for me to have someone that I care about tell me that I don't meet their standards, or that I'm not good enough or anything like that. That's very unhealthy, and it's toxic, you know. And it's not healthy for them. And this was the insight, was that while I already knew all this other stuff, it was very, very clear to me that all this blaming and demanding from the other side was really just this delusional, self righteous way of avoiding accountability. Now, it doesn't excuse anybody. You know, like if I act immaturely and someone gets upset about it, that doesn't excuse me from anything, of course. And yet, the way that someone receives a scenario that's uncomfortable indicates a weakness in their personality. And so, um, that's that's really something that I don't know that a lot of people will really be able to get. You know, intellectually it might make sense, but to really live that truth of um, something happened, I'm not happy, and I am the reason I'm not happy. So if I want to change it, if I want something to be different, I have to change. I can't demand that the world accommodate me. It's just unreasonable. Um, so that's the insight that I've been having is, really being like to tease apart, because especially when you're attacked, especially when it's family, we do have a tendency to recoil, just old patterns like, oh wait, I did something wrong. Um, and it took a few days of really looking at it and like playing it out to realize um, no amount of apology was was going to fix it. Like no amount of accountability on my part was going to make this other person feel better, because they didn't want to. They were not ready to forgive. They were not ready to move on. They wanted to sit there with their anger and blame me for it. And that's just where they're at. It's fine. My place is, if anything, just to support it and to help alleviate, if I feel like the boundaries are healthy, to help alleviate that energy. But really, a big lesson for me in that is, first, always to be fully accountable for myself, of course, and then to realize that not everybody is like that. Not everybody is a fully accountable, and so they may try to push their unprocessed emotional baggage onto you, and just to look out for that and make sure to keep your boundaries very, very healthy. Um, yeah, and another thing, you know, this kind of goes into the idea of being present and allowing. And so here's the concept: is that something uncomfortable happens, something unpleasant occurs, and And then in your mind, you're saying, oh, I wish it didn't happen that way, or when it did, I wanted to react this way, and you start playing all this stuff over and over again. Um, it's very seductive to do that. I know, I do it all the time. And yet, what you're really doing fundamentally is not accepting the will of spirit or God or whatever. You're not accepting that divine intelligence that forced that event to occur for the benefit of everyone involved. No matter what happens, everyone has something to learn from that scenario, or else they wouldn't be involved. That's the way it works. You know, you can disagree, but you're just going to butt your head against the wall. And so when these events occur, the easiest thing to do, of course, is to just blame other people for how you feel, you know, but that denies all the work that's gone into putting this environment, this situation together to basically stress your ego and show you where the weaknesses are. And there's a lot of value in that, you know. Also, some people complain, oh, well, it was too much for me. Well, it's only that the situation is only as intense as is necessary to get the message through. I don't think that God is a particularly aggressive being or whatever, or like that there's a particularly mean or aggressive nature to reality. I think that nature is wise in the sense that if you are listening carefully, it whispers. If you're stubborn, it yells. And if you're really stubborn, then you're gonna you're headed for some suffering. And so that's the way it is. It is only as intense as is required to get a message through. And here's the warning. If something bad happens, bad, but if something really intense happens and you're still blaming everybody, then look out, because that means that level of intensity didn't work. It's going up a notch. That's the way, that's life. If you don't listen, it gets louder. You don't listen again, it's gonna get louder. So, yeah, you know, when these events happen, just really try to take an honest look at the scenario and say, and without blame, there's no blame here. No, like, oh, it's my fault and that's how I'm being accountable. No, the accountability is, what am I to learn from this? The accountability is taking that step, not I'm to blame or they're to blame or how are we going to share this, you know, whatever. That's not it. The accountability is, something happened, what am I to learn from this? And I'd love to hear stories of situations that seemed like there was nothing to learn, or just, you know, more often than not, if the event is so intense that it's difficult to kind of like come back to that space of what am I supposed to learn? You know, and again, especially with family, it just can drive you so crazy that it's very difficult to get your bearings. But of course, you know, we're all learning, and yeah, forgiveness for sure. Thanks for listening.